The Hawk 250 is the cheapest motorcycle on the planet, but I still don't want it just falling off the back of my truck. I made several improvements to the Hallmaster motorcycle carrier for my dual sport bike. Number one, I used the bolts that came with it for the attachment points, but I went ahead and I reinforced all that by welding the steel to steel. So it's got the bolts with the lock nuts on it, but it's also welded. On these tabs up here, number one, the hole was too small for a double hook ratchet strap, and instead of using some chintzy little 1-inch ratchet straps with a single hook, I want to use those. So I drilled it out a little bit bigger, and I put these heavy-duty eye hooks in, and I welded the nuts on so that they don't come loose. I also welded these tabs. I used the bolts that came with them, but I welded the bottom edge to the drawbar as well. And then probably one of the most crucial additions was, instead of using the sway control, I guess, clamps that came with it, which were a different style, those things were full of slop, and the entire motorcycle carrier would pivot and tilt and sway. I got one of these hitch clamps. This is the proper way to mount it. The U-shaped bolt across the top, right up against the hitch. The steel lip on the bottom with the lip hitting the drawbar, the flat side hitting the hitch. And as you can see, when I put pressure on this thing, the carrier does not move. The whole truck moves. Oh, this final addition here. Again, the attachment points for the straps were two little holes that only a single hook could fit through. So I got this hitch here, big, thick, heavy-duty hitch, and I cut a notch in the bottom first, slid it down over the holes, and then just welded it in nice and tight. So now I've got a big loop that I can hook those ratchet straps to. Follow the directions when you load it. Put all 3 pins back here where the front wheel comes up first. That way it rolls nice and easy and doesn't fall in any holes. Make sure your tire clamps are on the bottom side of the rail, not up top. That way the front wheel can sink down and get clamped in between these 2 bars. If you're loading your bike solo, once you get up on the ramp, if you put a blanket over the top of your tailgate, you can just gently lean the bike up against your tailgate, and that'll give you a little chance to rest, give you a helping hand. And for other bikes, Hallmaster says take the 3rd pin out after the back wheel crosses it, and then you can move it up here to the front and put it over the top of the front wheel to help lock it in. But on the Hawk with knobby tires, you can't get this pin through there to the other side. So you're just gonna have to rely on the portion of the wheel that's caught in this recess and your ratchet straps to basically secure the front. So I'm just gonna leave my 3rd pin back here. That way it makes it nice and easy to roll it back down. The way I strapped it is I started down here on my big welded anchor point and went up through the triple trees instead of the handlebars, because if the handlebars come loose, then all of a sudden your strap is loose and your bike is on the road, probably in front of somebody else who's going to run it over and sue you. And then I connected the other end down here to the frame. I'm going to come up with something a little bit better than that. I'm going to get some big bolts to put all the way through big eye bolts that I can connect to. I did that on both sides up front, and then all the excess I just basically ran it. That doesn't have to be tight. That's just up here around the handlebars, and I tied a series of half hitches to take up the excess. And then on the rear, came through my anchor point, and then I went through the swing arm right behind the crossbar that the suspension mounts to, and then made sure I didn't go over the top of the kickstand, because that's another point for it to get loose, and then loop down here under the frame again. And on this side, I was careful not to cross over the brake line. So run your strap around the swing arm, but not around your brake line, because you don't want to crush that. But nice and stable. Give it a shake, and the whole truck shakes. So I'm gonna see if I can mount my camera inside the truck facing the rear, and take it for a ride down a crappy, bumpy county road, and let you see how it sits. All right, I'm not gonna baby it, but I'm not gonna drive like an idiot either. It's always good practice before you hit the road to drive a little bit and then check it. Make sure your attachment points are staying where you put them. So I'm going to do that real quick. The straps had already gotten just a tiny bit loose, so I gave them a couple more clicks all the way around.